All right, so
I have to give you a little bit of credit for this.
Yeah, we can overdub it later. Just
I haven't had any crazy stories about. Oh wait, no, I do. I got robbed at gunpoint, mugged.
Checking for me, but I ain't checking for them. No.
It's sleazy real estate, guys. But
you. All right, so back at it here. Another episode of the EP podcast, going beyond the headlights once again with the one and only my partner and co-host Arthur Hannick. Arthur, how's it going?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm good, man. You know, we sat down and we discussed for a few hours what we want the new version of Home Team to look like. You know, we drew some influence from the PBD podcast for some time, but we figured it's time to now make our own. So now we're going with Beyond the Headlights, which is essentially what we were doing to begin with. You know, now it's just where we're making it, I guess, in a way official. So Beyond the Headlights, we're going to be diving into stuff that's going on in different things, politics, government, business, you name it, and just doing what we typically do, right? So I have a few headlines here. I have, you know, RFK, now that, you know, he's, what's it called, the Secretary for Health. The Secretary of Health. We also have Kashpatel being confirmed as FBI Director. Andrew Cuomo wanted to make a comeback. Delta offering, you know, a great amount of $30,000 after a crash like the one they had in Toronto, and something a little bit different from what we typically do. But I was reading this article in Wall Street Journal going into why all in is no receipt for success. But what do you have going on?
In no particular order. Mark Cuban's tips for getting rich. Gen Z feels burned out after taking financial advice from social media. Well, that's actually Gen Z and millennials. Home sales drop sharply. Gen Z is afraid of talking on the telephone, and fast fashion.
Yeah, I could definitely see. I've definitely met people who will do anything possible to not call people on the phone. I'm one of those people that I have way too many people to get in touch with. So if we could, it's kind of like the email over call kind of thing. If it could be dealt with email, it could be dealt with email. If we have to get on the call, then we have to get on the call. But like knowing the difference. But I definitely know people who will do everything in their mom to not, you know, call. Like for example, when you, instead of going through an entire menu online, then you can't find the answer you're looking for on a specific item, why not just call the restaurant and find out exactly what it is, right? It's probably the easiest way to do it, unless it's a big ass chain and they have like 40 different robots you have to go through in order to get a hold of somebody, which I can see that side of it too. But okay, cool. A lot of I like a lot of your topics. Mine are more boring. But okay, let's see here. Where should we start? Let's start a little rough and then see where we go from there. Loosen up a little bit as we go. So, but before we do that, obviously, and of course, if you haven't already, like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, turn on that notification bell so we can continue wearing suits for no reason other than for these recordings. And please take the second to, if you'd like to support the podcast at eppodcast.us. We have reinvented the classic collection. We now have water bottles. As always, we have our mugs. We have, I'm going to leave this for a little bit later, but I've already brought it up in another episode before. But we have shirts, we have sweaters, you name it. Go support the podcast, eppodcast.us now. So, Arthur, let's jump into it. So, RFK makes his first anti-vaccine move. So, this is a Wall Street Journal opinion. This wasn't specifically a Wall Street Journal article. This was their opinion segment. So, I read into it a little bit. When I was reading into it, you can immediately tell that they weren't a big fan of RFK, which I get. You know, a lot of people aren't. You and I have discussed about how he's always gone back and forth with how he feels about vaccines. So I just decided to go into it a little bit more and see what it is that's going on, what his first move is. So what I read specifically in the opinion piece for the Wall Street Journal was that he's, word for word, what it was is he's preparing to sack members of the CDC and Prevention Advisory Committee on immunization practices. So that's nearly 1,300 layoffs at the CDC. And then we have a total of around 5,200 probationary. Is that how you say it? Probationary? Probationary, yes. Probationary employee across HHS who are being let go. So going into all of that, first off, I need to figure out exactly what probationary was. So, because I'd never heard of that before, so that was new for me. So going into that, I found out that it's essentially the new of the firm. Like they've either been under a year or in a new position for a fairly new period of time. So not someone that has been there, at least in their position, for an established period of time. So I was like, all right. So we know that during Congress, through the Senate hearing, he was getting a whole lot of backlash from protesters saying that he was lying when he said that he's not anti-vaccine and all that kind of stuff. So when I dove into it a little bit more, I believe it was Washington Post. They had done some research on him, and they went through 400 different public appearances that he had in the past few years, where they specifically went in on the amount of times he went against the vaccines and the effects it had. I think I saw somewhere, so it was 400 media appearances, and of those 400, he discharged the vaccine on at least 114 appearances. 36 times falsely accused, linked the vaccine to autism, and he also even tied it to the rise of chronic disease to the vaccine schedule. So we've heard things of him saying things like anyone who gives it to a minor should be, committed of a crime. We heard things like him saying that, Black people shouldn't be getting the same vaccine dosage as white people. Things like just all far in between that, something that's connected with autism and all that kind of stuff. But what's your side on it? What do you think about that? Just based on what you know.
Well, the autism portion has only really developed in the past couple of decades.
Uh-huh.
But the vaccines have been around for 6-7 decades.
Yeah.
So to now come out and say these vaccines that everyone's been getting for 7 decades are now causing other health issues, I don't think is really looking at the full picture.
Well, one of the things that I looked up with autism, it's something that's developed relatively early, and that cannot be developed down the road. Whether you're diagnosed with it or not down the road, that's a different thing.
The big question, because Bill Gates has come out and said that he would have been diagnosed with autism by today's standards, but he is not diagnosed with autism now and was not diagnosed as a kid. Right.
So, I guess because his at least from what I know, his specific bone to pick was with the COVID vaccine. So he was always given trouble, or at least one of the things. So when you look him up on Google, he comes up as I want to say he like a lot of nice titles, kind of like author, different titles like that. And then you go into he's called a conspiracy theorist and anti-vaccine or something like that, anti-vaccine activist. But I mean, he's now got the role. He now has the role at the HHS. What do you like? How you feel about that? Because a lot of people were not for it. I don't even think you were for it, but kind of see want to know where you're at with it.
Well, I think it's kind of impressive he's going to be able to make cuts with the CDC and be able to beat Elon Musk to the chopping block.
What do you mean?
Well, Musk is going pretty quickly and making chops all over the government, so he thinks he's going to be able to downsize that department before Musk can get a hold of it.
Well, they don't directly have influence on whether or not they get fired. It's Trump, the one that calls it at the end of the day, because I looked into that. I want to know exactly who is it that is letting these people go. And it's specifically Trump that's letting go of all these people, like forcing these people, like, get out. Mm-hmm. So obviously I related back to when you and I were talking about the role of the vice president. While they can make executive decisions, they can still be in their ears. But at the end of the day, that's all they can be. So, I mean, I think that's probably part of it, what it is right now. As we know, Trump likes to surround himself with people smarter than him, or, to each your own on that opinion. But, it was, what was it, 52? It was 52 for yay and 48 for nay on February 13th. And I don't know, when I look at him as Secretary of the HHS versus the lady we had before, it's just I like my odds better with, at least from an appearance standpoint, with RFK. However, RFK doesn't really have a medical background. He has a law degree. But he's not a physician and has no medical or public like records that he has any medical experience. That is concerning. That is very concerning. But at the same time, you got to wonder, how much of that role is. I mean, the closest thing I could think about is when we're at a restaurant, right? We worked in the restaurant. You worked on it longer than I have, but we both worked on it together for a good while. And one of the things I would always say that I'm a terrible server, right? I'm a terrible server, but I did decently well. What I was good at was giving the members an experience, right? It took me a while to get there, but I would specifically say that my job as a server is to give you the best experience I possibly can from the moment you come in to the moment you come out, or the moment you leave the place. But I would also argue that not to the members, of course, but like when I would get into a disagreement with like the chefs or the cooks or whatever the case is, was that there was the level of expectation and understanding as a server for me that of a cook, right? And that's just where I just didn't see eye to eye with them, because while I get it's to my benefit for sales purposes to know more about the menu, at the end of the day, the experience is what people walk out with. So that was my argument with that. So I wonder if it's somewhat in relation to that, like, because if you needed the background, then clearly he shouldn't have gone through to begin with. So is that not the case?
Well, that's the argument. And the other part of this is I still don't understand why we're able to confirm people to these positions at just majority. Why isn't it 60 votes? Why isn't it 60%? Why isn't or 2/3? Why are we just allowed to be at 51% and it's good, or 50-50 and then the vice president can vote and make for the tiebreaker?
You want like undeniable.
It needs to be. You need to have a mix of both Republicans and Democrats, right. And that's where you end up with the best people. Mm-hmm. Versus when it's just all one side or the other, you're getting these people that don't have the background and the experience.
Yeah. See, yeah, it's because and we've had the conversation about merit and everything. Again, if the qualifications were necessary, then he doesn't have the qualifications from a health standpoint in terms of like education. But I wonder if the secretary prior, would you mind pulling up what the secretary of the HHS was? I know it was a lady, but I just kind of want to compare and contrast of how they both look. And sorry, I'm a little bit under the weather right now. You could just pull up, yep. And then just go to Google. And then put Secretary of HHS. Yep. And then go to images. There you go. The first one right there. So, one, they were transgender. Mm-hmm. I forgot that. And second of all, to be honest, I look at this person and then I look at RFK and I pick RFK anytime. But I'll give this person the benefit of the doubt. Let's see what this person's qualifications were. What was their name? Let's see if Rachel Levine. Let's look at Rachel's Levine background. Or Levine. And then go to all. Do specifically education background. Well, the Mount Sinai Hospital. So, what do we have? So, School of Medicine. So, graduated from the Harvard College and what is that? What does that say? Tulane University School of Medicine. Okay, so she has a degree in medicine.
She's a doctor.
She's a doctor. How do you know? Is that does? Yep, she is. She is a doctor, yeah. So right there where it says people ask, what kind of doctor Dr. Rachel Levine is? Where it says people ask, right under the mouse. Pediatrician with a specialty in adolescent medicine. Okay, so in that she has RFKB.
100%.
She has RFKB. And I guess in that in general, it makes her more qualified than him. So you really got to wonder if we have someone who is from an education standpoint qualified. Why are we not setting the standard for at least to have some sort of educational background that is qualified? We could go reset here. So I don't know. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think is the future here with RFK now in this role?
I mean, if he wants to go after the whole theory that autism is more prevalent than it has been in the past, then can we start with some basic things like eliminating food dyes? They're not necessary. They're not required. They've been taken way out of
We just got
proportion.
rid of one, though, didn't we?
One,
Yeah, well, we just did.
which has, for the most part, not really been in food products.
Okay. It was the drinks, right?
It had already been, I don't know, wouldn't say, it obviously hadn't been eliminated, but it had been its use has been drastically reduced over time.
Okay.
But there are other dye, like the food that we buy, the candy that we buy in this country, you can't buy it overseas.
Mhm.
You can't go to Europe and buy M&Ms.
Yeah.
They have something similar, but it's not covered in food dye. All of the food that we produce in this country and send overseas is not the same recipe. It's modified.
Well, he goes on about this. Look up on Google a side-by-side nutritional fact of just candy in the U.S. versus other countries. But I mean, that's the thing, right? It's the challenge with that. That's like, I feel like at this point it's old news that yeah, we use a ton of unnecessary crap on our food, and as a result, we're ending up in hospitals. It takes a long period of time to get there, but we get there.
I mean, if you want to look at the autism one,
Go to images.
There's the correlation that for the longest time, M&Ms did not come in the color red.
Right there. So right here, let's look at the U.S. version of Pop-Tarts. No, you could just. So you can clearly see that there's a ton more ingredients in there, or at least a couple lines more. But we have syrup, TBHQ, caramel color, red 40, yellow 6, blue 1. Red 40, I think, is the one that got eliminated, no?
No. One,
Okay.
I believe, is red 3.
Red 3? Okay. Yeah, so let's... Yeah, that's... Yeah.
But as I was saying was, red dye wasn't available. Like, M&Ms did not have a red M&M in the package. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until, I want to say it was in the 80s-ish, that they thought that they found a red dye that was fine. And the reason why there wasn't a red dye is because of it caused, I want to say, attention deficit or hyperactivity in children. So now we have all these dyes, and we're having other neurological issues such as Alzheimer's, or such as autism in kids. And by the way, this is coming after we have red dye available again.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've already told you this, man. Like, I'm not a fan of the healthcare system here. I think that I don't mean to sound like a conspiracy theorist here, but because you're always a conspiracy theory until it proves to be true. I feel like we have it set up here where we get you sick so you end up with the hospitals today and keep you returning to the hospitals. And then you're going into a never-ending, you go into a slowly dying cycle until you drop dead. I feel like that's what I've seen. Like, and I bring you back to the example that my mom, I forget what it was. My mom, she's had a pretty cool life and hasn't had to work that much. And she jokes about how when she started going back into work, she said that she was allergic to work because her feet had gotten swollen from working. So she went to the doctor because of that to see if, what she should do to, help that. And probably the answer was just work more. And literally off her first visit to the doctor, she came back with like 7 different prescriptions of like drugs. I don't understand that. Why? Like why? And then what happens? People end up becoming dependent on these drugs. And then what happens with that? You run out of them. Now you're on a never-ending cycle.
Well, not necessarily dependent upon the drugs, but then the drugs cause other reactions which require more drugs to counteract those reactions, but then those new drugs create new reactions that you need different drugs. So
Right.
that's where it really you start to go down the rabbit hole.
And then
I mean, there's a difference between painkillers and drugs like your mother would have been prescribed for
But
her
7?
feet swelling.
Like 7. I mean, I don't know if the exact number was 7, but she showed me it was a lineup. It was a lineup. It was like they were specifically lining up, waiting for the next one to go in. Like it was just to me, it was just crazy and it pissed me off because I hate seeing that. I hate seeing that.
But I mean, you don't have all the details, and you have to understand a little bit more. Like, were these all prescribed for how long? Were some of these just minor doses that they found a different issue at the time and said, "Hey, you need to take this pill for 2 weeks," and it's a vitamin deficiency type thing, or like there's more to when you don't go to when you don't seek healthcare.
Yeah.
Sometimes they find other problems.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, man. But to me, it's just a lot, man. All at once. A lot of these things, I feel like just with a healthy diet, a healthy workout regimen, a healthy just routine of just yourself taking care of yourself with what you eat, what you put in your body, takes care of it like that. But
To an extent, I mean, there's still vitamins that you need for.
But you're specifically talking about supplements. They're supplements because you don't get them in your day to day.
Yeah, but statistically, most women end up with a calcium deficiency as they age. And that's not just in the United States, that's all over the world. So that's one of those things that, be aware of it. Try to eat more calcium fortified foods or take a calcium pill.
Yeah. So with RFK, one of the things that he spoke about was I do believe that autism does come from vaccines. That was one of the things he said. So that made me think about COVID a little bit, right? Specifically long COVID. Have you heard of long COVID or long haul? I think it's what the other word that they call it. And one of those things is that it can give you is brain fog, right? And I remember a buddy of mine used to get brain fog often, and brain fog is just like a cognitive disability. Essentially, it's like it hazes you. You can't think straight. It can be tough in public environments and stuff like that. So, and I look it up, right? And I look it up. I'm like, this is like a neural problem. So I'm like, I know autism is a neurodevelopment disorder. So I'm like, is it real? Is it similar? Is it relative? One of the things with autism that you get is brain fog. So I'm like, okay, so I'm seeing brain fog here. So I'm thinking, is there any relation at all? What was a little confusing was that it says that brain fog is not a neurological disorder, but then again, I'm finding that brain fog can be considered related to autism. So essentially, not go hand in hand, but it could be like a cousin of or like a relative of.
But autism is such a broad spectrum that there's also, people can be both diagnosed with autism and have completely different symptoms.
Yeah. I still think that, especially with everything that's coming out with things about the CDC and the lab and over in Wuhan, and now all these things with Fauci coming out now, I wouldn't be surprised if 10 years down the road we find out even more stuff about this COVID vaccines. But yeah, so that made me think about that about that a little bit. So I was wondering, he's been going back and forth with positions so many times that I had to listen to the hearing a little bit to see where exactly. I'm like, okay, you said this in the past. They pulled up receipts on you. Like, these receipts exist. So where do you stand now? Because here's the thing. I'm okay with changing how you think over time, and your credibility starts to fall when you constantly do it. But I can see it I could agree with it to some extent, changing how you feel about something later down the road. We've seen it all the time with ourselves, politicians, and everybody in between. He specifically said now, and during the hearing, that he supports the vaccines, that he supports the childhood schedule, and that all he wants is good science. I don't know necessarily what he means by that, but I imagine it means nothing corrupt with any hidden agenda or anything like that.
Or is he just saying that to get confirmed and moving on because you just tell people what you want to hear because that's the new philosophy? Just tell people what they want to hear, whether it's right or not, just tell them.
But here's the thing, that to some extent, we have to have faith in people that we end up having in leadership positions. And then if we don't, then one, who do you trust, and two, you can always voice your opinion or go through whatever motion there is to, have some sort of action and play for that. But at the end of the day, it's like you saying that. I get what you're saying. It's a valid thing to bring up, but I have no way of, saying okay, like whether or not he means that. So like when I'm in these positions, because that's where a lot of these arguments end up leading up to. I'm just like, we'll see. I mean, it's all on camera. That's the thing with the internet. Whatever you say in front of the press, social media, it's there. It lives forever after. So we'll see where it goes. That's kind of where I'm at with it.
I mean, easy one. Donald Trump acceptance speech said he was going to bring the country together. What's he done?
Dude, but it's not.
He's still using us, them, the Democrats, the evil people. It's not. Those aren't words that bring people together.
Again,
he's trying to divide.
For you to draw a definition saying that he's specifically trying to divide, I hope you have contextual evidence to back that. Now, you would have to cognitively know that that's his ulterior motive, right? I don't know how you're going to find that out. I don't. The only way I can find that out is with time and whether or not what he's saying checks out by the end of his administration.
Going around and bashing people that you don't like is not bringing.
It's not professional. No, it's not professional. No one is. We've had this time and time again. He's not a.
It's very clear he did not write his acceptance speech. Somebody else did it because those clearly were not his words.
How do you know that? That's a speculation.
Listen to how he speaks. And listen to that acceptance speech.
But what I'm getting at is it's a speculation. You have no way of knowing that. What do you get out of it?
But no, you're talking about people being honest, and we just have to have faith in it.
How do we distinguish honest from dishonest?
Not lying.
Exactly. And at that point, we don't know that until we give it time.
Okay.
It hasn't even been a month.
But you don't have to be using words to divide.
Okay,
and
but
from the moment you had the acceptance speech, so that's
what
back
are we
in
arguing
November.
here? What are we arguing here? What's the subject that matter?
Telling the truth, lying.
Is it telling the truth, or is it maintaining professionalism?
It's telling the truth, as you had said. With what RFK was saying, he said he pivoted on an issue. Did he really pivot, or is he just saying that to get through this hearing, and now he can do whatever he wants because he's in the position?
Look, and here's the thing. The Senate passed him through. 51 to 49. So 51 people who are in these roles in government who have,
again,
they have
voted on party lines
that have
and actually not all of the Republicans.
So you're saying that every single person in office, just has, it's my party or die.
That's what it's become.
But what do you have to back that?
What politics has become?
See, I have nothing to go off here.
Things have changed drastically. McCain used to reach his hand across the aisle and work with Democrats. Biden used to reach his hand across the aisle and work with Republicans. That's not happening.
So, all right, this is all I'm hearing. I'm hearing problem. I'm hearing no solution. Right? You're bringing up everything. Everything is no, bad. And you're drawing absolutes without giving me anything at the table.
Because the rules of the game have changed. It used to take 60 votes to confirm. Becoming on the Supreme Court justice used to take 2/3.
And when did that change?
It changed under Bush's administration.
Okay, why did it change?
Because they couldn't get their candidate through, so they changed the rules to the game.
So, if anything, they didn't just even out the game even more? Because if you're talking about game...
No, it didn't even out.
Because if you're talking about game of win or lose...
It made it so they just need
then
majority.
It makes the game more fair.
It just made it so majority vote got through versus having a 2/3 majority.
But either playing field has the same possibility. If that's the case.
Only if they're the ones in power. Only if they're in the one's control.
So
versus it wasn't that way.
Okay, so we're specifically talking about cabinets here, right? Cabinet picking.
Sure, use cabinet picks.
So, sorry. You're telling me that in today's world, the only way any cabinet that's on the opposite party of the current president, there is no way, essentially. It's always going to be that party that is of the president.
I'm not saying that.
Okay.
But I mean, most of these votes have been party lines, with the exception of Rubio, where he was unanimous. But he was also a senator. So you don't really vote against one of your own.
See, for me, it's inconsistent with me when I hear you say that we're holding the moral compass on certain situations, but in certain situations we're not. That's where I fail to be on the same page with you, because I just don't understand where your understanding is coming from. I get you're looking at history, how people have been acting, but it's impossible for us to say exactly what people's ulterior motives are. And the only way we're able to draw honest from dishonest is on a current statement that's made, and on whether or not they ever uphold that statement. I've agreed with you that RFK has specifically gone back and forth.
Let's go to a point that's already been proven. The 2020 election.
Okay.
Who won?
Biden won.
What about the people that say Trump won and that was the Biden one was incorrect and Trump really won?
You said, what about the people that said that Trump won and not Biden won?
What about the people that still say Trump won that and
they were there?
Stole it?
They were there, and they're still there. They're still there. There's still people today that say that Trump won that election.
Okay, but you understand that that's not the case.
I understand that, yes, because the people ultimately voted. Now, whether there was any voter fraud or not, that's beyond me. That's beyond me. But the facts, the numbers that were presented to the country,
that's already been researched, and they found that was one of the.
There was a substantial different number of votes in the past 4 elections from that specific election. Now, there's a lot of different variables that go into that, I understand, but that was something I noticed with the numbers, and something a lot of people noticed in the numbers, and it just drew questions.
What about it?
There was a substantial more number of turnouts for voting in that specific election over this election and the elections prior, some elections prior. We covered this.
Yes,
we covered this.
But that comes and goes.
I understand that, but it's just an observation I made, right? Okay. So here's the thing. All right, I try to take objective approaches here. That means that I look at all the numbers. I look at all the numbers as what presented to us. Now, we know that the saying is that people lie, numbers don't. But at the same time, we know that people can mess with numbers, right? And as a result, numbers lie. That's the approach I take. Right. With politics, I get it's a little different, to where all we can do is look at their previous actions. And that is true. And here I'm agreeing with you. People said, there's a lot of people that said that Trump won that election, but he in fact did not.
Okay.
He in fact did not.
So here's what I'm trying to get to that. So based on that statement and history and facts, it's been repeatedly proven that Biden won and Trump lost.
Okay.
So I don't think anybody who's coming into any position of power, including the president, who's still going around saying, I really won that election, it was stolen from me. Well, history's saying no. The facts are saying no. Yeah. You're making false statements. So anybody who's still going around believing that Trump won and the election was stolen from him, even with all the facts and history is stating otherwise, I don't think they should have anything to do in politics, because if you're not going to accept the facts after, I understand that was your position then, and I understand that people can make mistakes, but if your position is still that after 4 years, after everything that has happened, after it's been repeatedly proven, after it has attempted to go to court, and when it went there, the judge asked, show me the fraud, and we don't have any documented proof. We only heard this happened. Case got thrown out.
So here's where I meet you. I agree that we should accept what has happened. What has happened. However, there's nothing that stops, and this goes for any election in any part of history, that something comes down way further down the road that finally gets digged up. That something can happen. But we don't know that until then. We will never know that until then. So the professional thing to do is to, especially having the comeback he did, he should just drop it. Let it go. Let it go. You're president now. You made the comeback. You got the win. You swept it. Like, you're good. Now, I have never disagreed with you on the fact that Trump doesn't have the best professional acumen. I have never disagreed with you with that. To the specific Trump supporters saying that, you know, there was fraud and that he won that election, that's absolutely correct. But I also see that now with the Democrats. There's still a lot of Democrats now that are saying that Trump did not win the election and that Kamala did. I think the media has a thrill day with. I think the media sells Trump better than they sell anybody else.
Okay.
But
here's the difference. Which people in Congress are making those accusations?
well, it's never Congress. It's the people.
But that's what we have.
At least the people outside of government.
When it happened, we had quite a few people actively currently sitting in Congress making those false statements. We have people now that have just been confirmed to positions that are still holding true to those false statements and refusing to admit that they were incorrect or that was not what happened.
Yeah.
So people want to believe that Kamala won, let them. But they're not in a position of running the country.
Mm-hmm.
The people that believe that Trump won when he didn't are the people that are in position of running the country.
I can't say I know that for sure. I can't say I know that for sure because I haven't specifically dove into that specific research, and I don't know that you have. So
I believe
from my end, I can't say that.
I believe the FBI person who just got
Kash Patel.
I believe he's on that bandwagon.
Okay.
The Attorney General, she adamantly refused to answer the point blank question when it was asked about would she that President Biden won the 2020 election. Her response repeatedly was, President Biden is the president. He was the president.
Yeah.
Not that he won, just that he was the president. She refused to reverse her position after she was so adamantly was on so many talk shows and trying to start so many lawsuits that Trump won.
Talk shows are the worst things for politics. But hey, I'll take it for what you're saying. I'll take a word for what you're saying. I'll do some research myself. And what's for sure that time tells all truth. So if they were silly to make that statement down the road and nothing comes up 100 years from now, then so be it. I stand on Trump lost. Now he won. He won, lost, won. And that's just the facts. Because it's just a responsible thing to do. It's just a responsible we don't need politics is already complicated enough as it is. Emotionally triggering people like how Trump has, it doesn't help.
Correct.
Doesn't help. So there's that. So he's for the vaccines. He says that now. He's supporting the child schedule, and all he wants is good science. He doesn't have any background in medicine or any medical background. But it's where we are now. You know, one can only hope that they do right by their word. If he doesn't, screw him, get him out, and then have him pay the action for his consequences. But you mentioned Kash Patel, right? Kash Patel, he was confirmed FBI director. He got 51-49, which was what
all Republicans except
So, but he got 51-49, and for RFK it was 52-48. So let's see here. I don't have exactly who the ones because there was a couple Republicans. It was one, right? One or two. I think it were two Republicans that did not vote for him, favor him.
I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember the name.
53 Republicans in Congress right now.
So it was. I believe it was Thursday, and literally the day after he got sworn in.
But I think it's 52. So one person didn't vote for him.
Yeah, it was one person. Yeah,
was that probably Mitch McConnell?
Yep. So it might have been Mitch McConnell, but he also announced he's apparently stepping down in 2026.
Yeah, all of a sudden he has a conscience and is now going to run his mouth and vote his conscience versus before he was a puppet, and now him with a hand
Congress
up his
looks like a retirement home. Congress looks like a retirement home. Like, it's terrible.
He should have retired. Well, so is the White House.
It's terrible. Like, And same thing with presidency. There needs to be an age limit, and definitely some sort of cognitive line to be serving those kind of roles. Because Congress just looks like a retirement home. So it's awful. Okay, so he has his background consists of counterterrorism prosecutor. He's held many positions in the National Security Council. He's been chief of staff or acting secretary of defense during Trump's first term. Now he's saying that he wants to reallocate the personnel. He wants to what he wants to do is decentralize them from DC a little bit and spread them out throughout the country a little bit more. 1,000 of them, 1,500 of them, 1,000 of them across the country, and 500 specifically in Huntsville, Alabama. And for that reason, that he just wants to, move around a little bit more. So, and then on top of that, he says that his goal is essentially to, in terms of leadership changes, he wants to get rid of or dismiss people that he thinks are going to be that have some sort of corruption going on internally, whoever he feels that is. Which reminded me, I remember hearing about how good. Oh, sorry, I thought I heard you say something. Reminded me, I think a while back I heard him somewhere saying that he has an enemies list based on his book. I think the book is called Government Gangsters, right? It's a 2023 book, right? So he talks about the deep state being a clandestine network of members of the federal government, sexually corrupt, people in the government, which he specifically goes into his book. And the enemy list consists of political figures, Justice Department officials, intelligence community leaders, national security officials, law enforcement heads, and others. Some names that are very familiar in there: Joe Biden, Kamala, Hillary Clinton. So specifically, he had said in media appearances.
Are there Republicans on that list, or is it all Democrats?
So let's see here. Well, there's a ton. I'll give you the list afterwards, and then you can review the list afterwards. You can tell me any of them are Republicans. I just have their names and their roles. But it might well, here's the thing. It says the book is Government Gangsters. He identifies 60 individuals from both Democratic and Republican backgrounds. So there is both in there. Now, whether or not there's more in one than the other, that's a different conversation. But during his hearing, he did deny of that list ever even being a thing, which is yeah.
So he just committed perjury.
So a court hearing and Congress hearing.
That's a felony. That's perjury.
Do they make you swear before the hearing?
You're under oath, and if you lie in front of Congress, that is perjury.
Yeah. So I might not have that worded right, but from what I found, he denied possessing an enemies list. Maybe if you're a lawyer and you're talking about physical lists.
Well, I don't possess it. It's in a book that I wrote down.
Yeah, exactly. So there's that's happening now. Now, I know this is gonna annoy some people, but I'm all for holding people accountable, right? But
you have the wrong administration.
Yeah, you see, that's exactly that. That's the exact reaction I expected.
We can start with January 6th.
Oh my God, you and January 6th, man.
Hold people accountable.
Yeah.
Not on January 21st.
Yeah. So I'm all for holding people accountable. I know it doesn't happen much in politics. I know a lot of politicians get away with a lot of little sleazy shit, but that's just as far as I can say about that. So I mean, we'll see what Kash does. I hope he does well. I hope that what's his name, Junior does well, and we'll see where that goes. I mean, all we can do is just try to support our government the best we can, no matter as long as they're not hurting or killing people, the best we can. So that's where we're at with that.
It still says something when your wife and your mother don't support you. And openly state it and campaign against you.
Look, his cousin, his wife,
his entire family.
Well, here's the thing. It's
the whole family posed.
I can't. I've seen it. I've seen the allegations. I can't stand by a family that publicly goes out and speaks bad on family like that. It's just not how I roll. So I've heard of them. I've heard of a number of the allegations, accusations, insults. You name them.
They didn't speak bad on him.
Huh?
They didn't speak bad on him.
Yeah, yes, they did.
What did
yes, like they said a bunch of insulting things. It's like anything that a family member wouldn't want a family up there saying about them. Things like he's a pervert, that he's just unqualified.
Okay, I didn't hear that part of it. I heard more politically correct things that they were putting their support behind the
But
Democratic
here's the thing, right?
candidate.
Even if it's true, right? What's the golden rule with critiquing? It's preach in public and critique in private, right? I think that's what it is.
Because we're doing that right now.
Who are we critiquing?
We haven't been critiquing people. We haven't.
I mean, who have I specifically critiqued?
We have not been critiquing people.
Okay, sorry.
Do we need to rewind the tape?
So let's specifically say judging. But even then, it's like my whole thing with family is I will never publicly, let alone to the fucking press, say negative things about my family. It's just like I could never do that. I could never do that because that lives forever. That lives on the internet forever, and that's not something I would want the generation that, succeeds me, thinking that's something okay to do, I try to avoid that even with my friends. Even with my friends, I always try to tell them, if we're going to talk shit on each other, let's do it to each other and no one else.
Okay, but that's not the culture we're in. That's not what's happening from 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Yeah. So I think it's a little yucky when family does that, especially with politics, man. The Kennedy family has gone through enough as it is. It's just I just don't like that. That's where it's going. But so what I have next is Andrew Cuomo. He wants to make a comeback. Do you want to jump into anything while we're on that topic in relation to you? Or?
I just want to share that all of my topics, not a single one of them was politics related.
All right, so hold on. I have, because these are important things, right? These are important things. I like to end on a soft note, but I also like to cover the stuff that, people are either triggered by, worried by, concerned by. As we know that Cuomo, he stepped down in 2021 after all the whole scandal thing, allegations, for sexual harassment, and an inquiry for impeachment. He decided to just step down. And now he's, ever since, the New Yorker spirit, it's like, it's kind of cocky and arrogant, right? You like to be right. You like to prove yourself right. You like to prove others that you're right and stuff like that. So it's been very obvious that since he stepped down, he's been kind of wanting to make a comeback. He's just been, as in the past year, a little bit more loud with it.
Well, since all of the charges were dropped against him.
Yeah. So we're now,
all the cases came back that there was either not enough evidence to prosecute or there are no charges. There is currently one that's still pending, and it more recently happened. It got filed on the very last day, hours before the cutoff time for it to never be allowed to be filed. So that to me is also questionable when a lawsuit gets filed right before the deadline.
So Arthur, when I get those questionable senses, what I like to do is research, right? And then from there, I leave the speculation there. Unless I do research, I leave the speculation there.
Okay, but because it's active, not a lot being stated about it because you can't until it's gone to court.
Right.
So that's why I'm saying it's questionable. There's not enough information one way or the other out in the public view.
Yeah.
But it's being presented that, hours before the deadline of it never being allowed to be filed, all of a sudden this got filed. So is this a money grab? Because that's typically what these are.
Okay.
It may not be, but again, because this is currently happening, we don't have information. So other than that, all of the other charges have all gone away.
I think they have more to worry about with
other part of it is he did choose to step down versus going through impeachment. So then that always leads to the question of why? If you were really innocent, would you have?
Well, if you get the option to be fired or step down, which one would you take?
Well, in politics in today's
Arthur, just generally
politics
generally
today,
speaking, Arthur.
you don't step down anymore.
Generally
You wait to
speaking.
be fired. You wait to be carried out of
Okay,
office.
so what was it with
No one's held...
the president that stepped down after the one scandal?
Oh no, you're going back too far now. I said politics today. Nobody has the decency to step down.
So you want to hold a gold standard, no pun intended. You want to hold a gold standard for some of your arguments, but not consistently throughout your arguments?
Why should I be
Nixon, sorry.
judging him for stepping down when he, in my opinion, did the right thing versus all the other politicians that have not?
Yeah.
And in today's culture, it's you don't do the right thing and step down. You waste the country's time, effort, energy, tax resources to fight it.
Do you think Adams should be stepping down?
100%.
Okay.
100%.
He's not stepping down, though.
No, he's not.
Yeah.
No, he's not.
Yeah.
And that's a whole scandal in itself.
So is that just your favorite word now, scandal?
When 7 people that have been asked to drop the charges against him all chose to resign. They all chose to quit their job versus dropping charges against him. And we're not talking 1 or 2 people. We keep promoting somebody up into that position, and they're like, nope, I'd rather quit.
Yeah.
Job I've been doing for decades. I'd rather quit and forfeit benefits.
Well, you also got to wonder, like his dad Mario, right? His dad Mario, he did 3 terms. I think the Cuomo only did 1, right? I think he only did 1, maybe 2. I think he only did 1. Well, not even fully.
He resigned.
Yeah, not fully. And as far as I know, that's all he knows. So I wouldn't be surprised if he just wants to do right by his father's legacy. I was wondering what Chris said about this. Chris says he doesn't, at least a few months back, he had said that he doesn't necessarily know why he's doing it, especially given all the complicated stuff that's happening with politics in general. So it's just, I'm not entirely sure what the motives are other than to just kind of make a comeback. There was a poll made for by the New York Times in Siena College, saying that 51 of respondents, New York City voters, thought the city was heading in the wrong direction. Now, how do you feel about that? Because I know you said 51 is not enough, so 60. Was 60 a more better indicator? I know Senate and polls are 2 different things.
In the polls, what's the percentage on the other side? Because they're saying 51 say this, and 35 say the opposite.
Yeah.
And there's 16% in the middle.
No, it's a great question. I was just giving you a hard time about Senate.
But there is no middle on
right.
the vote.
No, there's no one or the other.
I mean, this is 51 versus 49.
I believe it was 51-49. But specifically, they said that in a separate question, they said that 12% of them would back Democratic Mayor Eric Adams. 19% of them would vote for Letitia James, and then 22% said would back Cuomo.
That's still a big chunk of the population that...
Well, and then 28% chose not to answer, and then the rest were just other candidates. But Cuomo did have the big majority. Well, it's not big majority from the whole, but he had the most in a way, which makes you wonder, right? It makes you wonder because, he did step down. The allegations were there, all that court stuff happened or is happening. And this one political consultant, I believe his name is George Arzt, I believe, ARZT. So that's German, right? That sounds German. So he specifically says that there are many people who think he's going to be our mayor and then potentially even run for president in 2028. I know that's way far out, but he's specifically saying that there's a lot of word around saying that. So I don't know. I know he has to talk to the family. He has to, I don't know why he's going back. That's what Cuomo said. But he is active. He's active. He went to his local community center on Valentine's Day and then specifically preached the word. The power word of love, not hate. So he's making public appearances almost as if he's already running. They're saying that we could be hearing something from him at some point in March on whether or not he's running. But I don't know. It's just you know how I feel about New York, man. I'm not a fan of New York these days, or for a while I haven't been. I don't know why people are there, but that's what's happening with Cuomo. I mean, what do you think with that?
I mean, he's gonna easily be able to spin some of these allegations against him to how
Yeah.
crazy they were.
Yeah.
One allegation was that he kissed a woman's hand.
Mm-hmm.
Another one was that he put his hand on another woman's back when they were lining up to take a group photo.
Uh-huh.
Like, I'm sorry, that's
Yeah.
gonna happen. You've never put your hand on the back of somebody when you go to take a group photo?
Honestly, if you asked me that question probably like 10 years ago, 5 to 10 years ago, I wouldn't have thought anything of it. But I've seen an increase of specifically celebrities, male celebrities, that when they go in, especially when they have a significant other, when they go in to take a group photo and there's someone that's a lady, to his left or his right for a picture, they specifically leave the hand floating. They don't put the hand on them. And I can't help but feel that that's a result of all the crazy things, that allegations and accusations that have been going on in the past, however many years now. Keanu Reeves is a famous one for them. Leo Messi is one of them. I just keep seeing it with
Right, but my point is that it's getting taken out of proportion. That I'm sorry,
Right.
you're lining up for a photo.
Right.
It's very natural to put your hands behind people's backs, and that's just the way the poses work.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know,
Because it doesn't look right with everyone having their hands just held in front of them. That kind of looks like it's a forced photo, and you don't want to be there.
Do you think he's gonna he's gonna want to run? He's gonna make an announcement in March?
We'll see what happens. I mean, it's hard to say, and there's still the current issue with the mayor going on now. So it's
like I feel like Trump just completely like made everybody forget about Adams with the whole thing, especially with him submitting the whole thing to get rid of congestion pricing. And then I think that was the same day where the White House had posted a picture of him saying "Long live the King," and it was him with a crown.
Mm-hmm.
And then she had said that, "Oh, we don't bow to kings. We haven't, and I don't know. I forget what she exactly said. However many hundreds of years." Here's the thing. Again, it's not professional. It's not okay. It shouldn't have been done in politics at all. But people need. There is an aspect to trolling in here. There's a big aspect to trolling in here. So I think people need to see that a little bit and not get too riled up by it, because a lot of people are going nuts over stuff like that. I like an AI generated picture of Trump with a crown in front of the White House and "Long live the King." I get it. Trump is not helping his case. He's not. But I won't be there to find out whether or not he's going to be governor. My mother still lives there, so she'll still be there, but I still don't understand why people want to move there. So I started diving more into New York City numbers today.
Well, will she vote?
Oh man, she's just too worried about freaking overworking. But I always hear I have people in my family who are split politically, so it's always funny hearing both sides. It's funny until we're all fighting each other.
Do they vote, where they just have plenty of political opinions?
I don't know that,
and they don't go to the poll to express them?
I don't know that, and I don't want to draw any assumptions. I feel like that's I feel like I'm shooting myself on the foot by I plead the fifth on that one. So I started diving into some New York numbers, see how New York is doing these days. Average rent in New York right now for a studio, New York City, $3,100 a month.
No, it's come down.
Now, you look across several different platforms, it gives you different answers. You look at one bedroom, around approximately $3,900 a month. Two bedrooms, approximately $5,300 a month. And a three bedroom, rounding up, call it $7,000 a month. I don't get it. Why do people want to live in New York and pay these prices, man? I seriously do not get it. Now, here's the thing too, right? You hear this, you think people in New York, they're making a lot of money, but then when you look up at the median income, for full-time workers right now, it's approximately $69,000. For a single-person household, $43,000, and for a median family income is $105,000. So 50%, if not more than 50% of your income is going to the rent. And a place that, to be honest, it's not that great these days. I mean, the crime is going up. I looked at NYPD citywide 7 major felony offenses report from 2000 to 2024, and it's the highest it's been since, I believe, since the late 2000s, in the hundreds of thousands. So it's just the rate of crime is going up. There's a building being built in I think in Lower Manhattan for jail. They're shutting down. What is it? Rikers? Isn't Rikers something else?
College, university.
Yeah, Rutgers. Yeah, they're shutting the college for prison. Yeah, they're shutting down that prison island, and then they're moving everybody to a building in Lower Manhattan, and it looks like something out of Gotham. It looks like something out of Gotham, and it's like it's gonna be the tallest. It doesn't necessarily meet the definition of a skyscraper by a few hundred feet, but what's it called? It literally is a big, tall, black building. It just I don't get why it literally started to look like Gotham. You know, Gotham is Batman and everything like that. So I just don't get why people want to be there. I just don't get it. And at this point, it's just ridiculous. I mean, for right here we have this is so for I looked at to own in New York City. A 1-bedroom place is $709,000, the median, and then a 3-bedroom 1-bathroom is $800,000. And the craziest part was I looked into further for one additional bathroom, the median jumps from freaking 800 to almost 2 million. So for an extra bathroom, you're paying that much more.
So the trick is to buy 2 units next to each other and take down and put a doorway in between.
There you go.
Save some money.
See? You're a smart guy, Arthur. That's why I like you. But still, man, I don't get this. I don't get this. Why? Why even bother with this? What do you think?
It's all relative. It depends upon how much money you're making. It depends upon how much money your family has, and if you're getting trust funds. I mean, it's...
Yeah, dude, we're talking median full time 69, not full time looking at 43, family 105. Come on, man. Come on. It just doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't make sense to me. But, it is what it is. I have a lot more, Arthur. I have a lot more, and, we could keep going up for hours. I have the Delta 30,000, and then I also have the All-In. I might just skip the Delta one. I mean, I liked all my topics, but I want to give you some time, Arthur. Hit me with one. What do you got going on?
Did you have anything of interest on my list, or?
No, I mean, whatever stands out to you the most. Where are we at with time?
Just over an hour.
Cool.
Let's go with home sales. There's been a sharp drop in home sales from December to January. It's a 2.6%. The 2.6% decline was expected and turned out to be 4.9, so close to double. So that's not looking good for home sales. The price of home sales is at all-time high, but you also have to factor in that when a home sells, the price has already been negotiated 1 to 3 months in advance, and they're locked into a contract. So that number always takes a little bit longer to get adjusted.
So you're saying that people could be buying houses, could be in the middle of, closing out houses, and then by the time they actually get the keys to the place, they probably already had appraised value?
That they could end up with a lower appraised value.
Lower? Oh, wow. Shoot. Okay.
Because the inventory is increasing. It's not quite to where that make it neutral yet. They say a 6-month supply of inventory is neither a buyer nor seller's market. When it's less than that, it's a seller's market. When it's more than that, it's a buyer's market. Right now, we're sitting at a 3.5-month supply, which is higher than where it's been. And days on market is up to 41. And last time that happened was January of 2020. So now we're back to pre-COVID for how long a house sits on the market. So we're starting to see the market switch. It's making
But houses were going fast during COVID, no?
during COVID, yes.
Yeah, during COVID.
So this is January 2020.
Okay.
COVID didn't officially
Right.
hit
Later down the
until
road, yeah.
March, and then
Yeah.
everything stopped for 3 months in the
Yeah.
panic, and then that's when things started going crazy.
You're in real estate yourself. How are you seeing people with rents and all that kind of stuff?
Well, it's a different market now. If you don't pay your rent, and you haven't paid rent in the past, you're getting evicted, and you're having a hard time finding a place to live because it's not a secret anymore. If you don't pay your rent, it's becoming public knowledge. There's websites you can check to see what sort of a tenant you've been, and if you're not a good tenant, people don't want you. So now
Barely.
people are ending up with better caliber of tenants who are paying the rent. And
Is it something done by the real estate community where they publicly, how is that done?
well, you can go to the court records and see some of the public parts of it, and see if someone's been brought up for landlord-tenant issues, and deduce what the issue is from some of the line items in the description.
Yeah. Okay. What else you got for us?
Let's go with Gen Z as well as millennials feel burned after taking financial advice from social media. 43% of Americans actively seek financial advice or information online. And that is 77% of Gen Z and 61% of millennials. 37% of Gen Z and 25% of millennials have gotten into trouble, such as IRS audits, after taking online advice.
Yeah, dude. Remember when we spoke a while back about all these social media financial experts? I'm telling, yeah, man, now it's coming out. All the people that are getting hurt by it now, listening to all these guys. What I've been seeing on the rise recently is these accountant influencers, tax accountant influencers, where everybody's talking about which corporation to file, all this kind of stuff, to get this, avoid this kind of tax liability, that and the other. But then they don't go further than just the video itself or image themselves to figure out even if these people have any credentials whatsoever. It's a shame.
Simple answer is most people just need an LLC. The majority of people, it statistically comes down to it's an LLC. If that's incorrect, you can convert an LLC to a corporation down the road if you need to. But for the most part, it's just an LLC.
Yeah. Just get it. I never feel like at that point you better be seeking some professional advice, because if you don't have education specifically towards that, that's a slippery slope, man. That's a slippery slope. I'm the kind of guy that if I don't know what the hell I'm doing, I just immediately, I go to someone that I at least I think knows more than I do on the matter. It's probably the safest way to go about these things sometimes. But is there anything else on that?
Well, the interesting thing is I researched what sort of financial information people were looking for. And the number one issue was credit card debt. So just on that topic, it's not a complicated topic. It's if you have a credit card, pay it in full. If you can't pay it in full, stop using it.
Yeah.
It's not a secret. The credit card companies are going to charge you 20+% in interest.
Yeah.
And that's more money than what you'd be earning if you invested it. So
you're
always
saying,
find it crazy that people say, hey, I have $10,000 invested in the stock market, but by the way, I owe $20,000 on my credit card.
So you're saying don't open a savings account or an investment account, open a bank. You're saying, is that what you're saying? And issue lines of credit? Shoot, man. Nah, man. It's just crazy, right? Because you people are now relying on credit cards to meet their expenses, because they either don't have the income to do it or things have gotten too expensive for them to do it. It's because there's some people out there that even in cutting back,
Mhm.
the lifestyle,
They have.
they still get choked up. They still get choked up.
But you got to be careful with credit cards. I mean, first of all, the way we were able to avoid a second Great Depression or have it end in such a faster time frame was because of credit. Credit wasn't available during the Great Depression.
Yeah.
So when we had the Great Recession, which by all definition is technically a depression, but we didn't want to label it a depression because people would panic.
Yeah.
But it was actually worse than the first Great Depression.
Yeah.
Even though we're calling it a recession.
Mm-hmm.
But we got out of it significantly faster than we did from the Great Depression. And the main factor in that was credit.
Yeah.
People still had credit available
Right.
to them.
Right.
And it wasn't as bad as, Great Depression, people were starving. Because if you didn't have any money in your pocket, you couldn't buy food.
Yeah.
You don't have any money in your pocket today, but you got a plastic card.
Yeah.
You can still buy food.
Yeah. I don't get people who end up financing like financing clothes is a thing. Financing clothes, financing
That's
trips.
called charging to a credit card.
Well, I'm talking about specifically doing like opening accounts specifically to just do payments, like things like Affirm. Other companies are specifically like are on display for checkout. For when you're in checkout, you could either pay or you could do 4-month no interest payment, yada yada yada, or stuff like that. It's like I don't understand why people even entertain that idea at all.
The person offering the card, the company offering the card, the person.
I don't even think it's a card at all. They're essentially just issuing you a loan for the thing you're buying. I don't even think you get a physical card. I think you just get an account, which is essentially the same crap.
Okay.
But I don't know. It's just crazy to me. But hey, to each their own. To each their own. So Arthur, we've gone well over an hour now. We could go for a lot further, but we'll leave it here. We'll leave it here. Man, I really wanted to go into the Delta one, but we'll save it. We'll save it. But yeah, man. What I will say about the Delta one.
So we're gonna go into it.
So we won't go into it too much, but I can't help but notice how much every direction I turn in the media, how much emphasis they're putting on plane crashes, commercial plane crashes. And it's just like it does make you wonder why the hell are all these planes crashing. But then I started doing the numbers on it.
Are there really more plane crashes, or is it just being brought to the front of everyone's attention because one happened, and now that's the hot news is to talk about plane crashes?
And that's exactly what it is. So I was like, you know what? Let me look at the numbers. Let me go beyond the headlines and see what the hell's going on here. So in 2025 so far, we've had 3 commercial aircraft accidents. The one in January that we all know about that happened in Washington is one of them. And then in February, 2 so far, including the one with Delta at the Toronto airport that came from the U.S.
What was the other one in February?
The one in what? I don't know. The other one was in February. I specifically was looking at the ones that are being blown up
because the one in Philadelphia doesn't count as commercial.
Right, it doesn't. Right, okay. It doesn't. So that's why I specifically say involving commercial aircraft. And yes, there's specific things that qualify them to whether or not they're considered on these counts. So I was wondering. I was like, okay, like is there an average here? And apparently the average is that we get approximately, on average, 28 accidents a year for commercial airlines, for U.S. passenger flights each year. 28, right? It does not, if you looked at the media the last, month, it looks like that's happening like in the past month.
But that 28 also includes minor issues like planes, wings clipping other wings on the runway.
It doesn't have to be that, like, for example, the one that happened in Toronto, that classifies as one. Like no one died.
Well,
people got hurt.
Correct. The plane flipped over.
It flipped over, so that counts as one.
I just want to make sure that the minor ones where someone wasn't paying attention on the ground.
There's different classifications. Yes.
And next thing you know, 2 wings kind of scratched one another.
Right.
That also is part of your 28.
But that's exactly what I was trying to get to. Is to your point of the media is blowing that up in the forefront. They're saying, well, the internet. What I found in the sources I looked up, which were at this point over 30 for this episode, was that, we get on average 28 accidents for U.S. passenger flights each year. So I started looking at, all right, what did that look like for the past, 5 years, in the 2020s. So so far we have 5. So far we have 5. In 2024, we had 3 in January also, and then 1 in February. So we're 1 ahead this and in this particular month, a year ago.
But we were better off in January
We're-
this year than we were last year. So now we're back
No,
to averaging
they're
out.
both 3.
Oh,
They're both 3. What were you gonna say?
I thought that averaging out, they came out to be the same.
So yeah, they came out. So right now we're ahead. We're 1 more accident in February than we were last year. Last year we only had 1 in February. I specifically focus on January and February because that's where we are now. In 2023, we had 2 in January, 0 in February. 2022, we had 0 and 0 for January and February. 2021, 1 and 2. 2020, 3 and 1, January and February. And now just going down the totals, the past 5 years, we have 5, 18, 6, 10, 13, and 9. So on average, just on those 5 years, just in that 5-year time frame, it's 11. Average, approximately, right? Because you can't just count half of a plane, half of an accident. So, I just don't understand why the media is making it seem as crazy. This is coming from the Bureau of Aircraft Accident Archives. So I don't understand why the media is doing it the way they're doing it, because it's just because Trump is not helping it with the DEI comments, but the media is also not helping it, saying that, because you got to understand, right? There's the person that causes the fire, and then there's either putting out the fire or worsening the fire. You don't fight fire with fire. It's just not how you put it out. And the media, especially independent media, it's leaking into independent media with these content creators saying, oh, Trump, is making these DEI claims, blah, 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 blah. Now this plane, because he let go of all these FAA roles and everything like that. And it's just like, that's just simply not the case. It's simply not as big as they're making it out to be. Even the Delta CEO went on an interview in CBS Good Mornings or something like CBS Mornings. And the host asked the Delta airline, he's like, hey, are these FAA what's it called, cutbacks affecting you guys at all? He's saying, oh no, they're not affecting us at all. The truth of the matter is, there's over I think he said 50,000 jobs in the FAA, and I think that the numbers were only a few hundred that they were letting go, and there were only minor precisions, so they're not affecting us at all. Trump has actually been working with us closely to make it even more safer. So I'm not saying, the Delta guy is a Trump supporter, but it's just crazy how far and beyond the media is willing to go to make it seem. And even just in framing the question the way the host did, it's just, she was clearly looking for a clip. Right, and that's just what pisses me off, man. And that's as far as I'm going to go into that. But man, the mainstream media, it's just not it, man. It's just not it. Which is why we're here. Which is why we do the amount of research that we do. And I just screw the mainstream media, man. And this is when I come to this part here. The Make Media, Great Again hat, right? American flag on the left side, EP Podcasts on the back, available now at eppodcast.us. If you're tired of what the media is selling you, fear mongering, division, disagreements between your friends, your uncle, your family, your sister, your brother. I mean, I literally had one friend call another friend asking him, yo, are you seeing what EMILIO's posting? Is he crazy? It's the mainstream media, man. It's the mainstream media that's causing this divide. And if it's just not me that's feeling this way, and if you're also feeling that way, go to eppodcast.us to pick one of these up and show that you're tired of the mainstream media causing all these problems. So, Arthur, that's all today for this episode of Beyond the Headlines. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends. Turn on that notification bell for many more episodes to come, because I like wearing suits and I have no other occasion to wear them to, by choice. To then, bye-bye.